This podcast is recorded at the Zone Gym studio.
You're listening to the Raw Reality Podcast hosted by Tori Story and Fit with Lily. Today, we're joined by Millie Marshall, fitness coach, entrepreneur, and a true example of resilience. At 14, she battled anorexia, trapped in toxic fitness culture and destructive thoughts that led her to being hospitalized. But that wasn't the end of her story.
Millie fought to rebuild her life, shifting her mindset, healing her relationship with food and exercise, then turning her struggles into strength. Now she helps others do the same.
In this episode, she opens up about her darkest moments, the turning points that changed everything, and what it truly means to live a healthy, balanced life.
Now let's get into the show.
Millie, where does your confidence come from?
I think when I was younger, I used to think that confidence came from like your body composition and looking a certain way. But as I've gotten older, I definitely feel like my confidence has come from like knowing who I am on the inside and like actually liking the person I am on the inside. And I feel like when you have like a strong sense of who you are, it doesn't really matter what other people's opinion of you is, because you know that your opinion is the right one in a sense, because you know yourself better than anyone else. I think that's where my confidence comes from, because I do like the person that I am.
Yeah.
That's something we always speak about as well. At the end of the day, like your whole physical composition can change, but if you don't love yourself, the confidence isn't there no matter what.
100%.
Have you always had that confidence?
Absolutely not. No way.
Yeah.
How long ago do you think it really started coming into play?
I think every year it gets a little bit stronger and stronger. So I would say like I have been working on like my mindset and like the way I speak to myself and the way like I view myself and treat myself for, such a long time. I'd say a lot more in like a much healthier way, probably the last 4 years. And yeah, like it obviously isn't like click your fingers, I'm confident and I love myself now. Because it's always like a work in progress and there's always like room to improve. But yeah, I would say like it's kind of when I started more so working on my mindset was when my mindset towards myself really, really shifted.
Yeah.
We are going to dive into all of that, but I want to strip it right back and really dive deep into your journey, because I think your message is so powerful and what you've been through to get to where you are now is super inspiring. But when you were 14, 15, you struggled with anorexia. Can you take us back to the moment you were admitted to hospital and kind of all the emotions that came with that?
Yeah. So yeah, when I was 14, 15, previous to that, like I had dealt with an eating disorder for like a while up until that point. And then it got to, a very severe case where I was admitted into hospital. To be completely honest, like when I was admitted into hospital, the first emotion I think I felt was like, in a sense, relief, because I was struggling so much, like I was fighting so much. And when you're in that dark of a place and, like an eating disorder and anorexia and stuff, it is a mental illness. And I felt really, really alone and isolated and like helpless, really. So there was like a sense of relief that I was kind of had no option but to get help at that sense. But it was very fleeting, because like that like little kind of glimpse of Millie came through, but then it was very much overpowered by the eating disorder to kind of, be like, oh no, now I don't have any control. So there was a sense of relief, but then also scared as well. I guess I also realized how severe it had gotten, to the point where like when I was admitted, the doctors said like, you are literally like on your deathbed pretty well. Like I was extremely unwell. So yeah, there was a sense of like relief, but also
What's ahead of me?
100%. Yeah.
When you're at that age as well, you don't actually realize how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
Because all you think is like, oh, I've lost weight and I'm losing weight. You don't actually realize the health complications behind it, that your heart can't keep up and all of those things. And it would be such a scary position to be in.
What would you say like were the early like warning signs for you?
I would say, so it kind of started really harmless in the sense, but then also the thing I always think about nowadays is just like how easy it was to slip into those behaviours back then, like, 10, 15 years ago, when that was literally all we knew about the health and fitness industry was eat less, restrict, do more. Like it was just that on repeat. And even like when I first went to my mum to like, not blaming her in any sense, but when I first went to my mum to be like, I want to lose weight, she was like, okay, 1,200 calories, you know, go for a run every day, like, you know, cut out carbs, that sort of thing. So, because that was all we knew back then. So it started relatively harmless, lost weight, started to feel a little bit better about myself. But then when it started to be like, I definitely think when it started to take over my life was like, that was probably the biggest warning sign, because it was like, if anything got in the way of my routine, which was certain eating times or certain foods I had to eat or my run or something like that, then like shit would hit the fan. Like I was a monster.
It's like to the point where it gets obsessive.
100%. Yeah. And like you'd cry, you'd scream, you would like, you lost, like you kind of lost all your social interactions if it got in the way of what your routine was.
What do you think the point you got to where you were like, okay, I actually need that help? And it's probably the most scariest point to be in. Like, was it your decision or your parents' decision to admit you to hospital?
So I think like a common misconception when it comes to like severe eating disorders is it got to a point where I felt like I had lost all control. So it was like the way that I would describe it, which may not make a lot of sense unless you've been through it, is, and it sounds so weird, but it's kind of like you're possessed by a demon almost. It's like your entire like soul is kind of, sorry to stop that. It literally feels like you, like who I am on the inside, Millie, like little Millie is like overpowered by this eating disorder. And then that is like controlling my mind and controlling my thoughts and controlling my behaviors. Like that's what it really feels like. So I never saw a problem in anything I was doing. I wouldn't look in the mirror and think I was skinny. I would be like, literally pick apart little parts of me that still had fat on it and be like, that's fat. Oh my God, I'm still fat here. Or I would literally eat a grape and be like, I'm going to put on fat. Like it was like the word fat was like my vocabulary. That was like every single thing. It was like, that's going to make me fat, or I am fat, or like that, you know? Wow. So it wasn't necessarily like I definitely didn't see a problem in what I was doing. I thought everyone else was doing crazy. Same. I was you guys are trying to make me fat. You guys are you guys are like trying, in my mind, everyone was against me and wanting the worst for me is what was going through my head.
Yeah. So you've mentioned in a post that you say the hospital didn't fix you. So what was the point of that turning point of beginning the healing journey?
Yeah. So there's like many different stages of when you start to get help with an eating disorder. And I was seeing like psychiatrists and doctors every single week, like multiple times a week, when it got to the extreme point before I was admitted into hospital. So the psychiatrists kind of support your family in understanding like what I was doing behind the scenes, and then going to the doctors kind of check on my weight and everything like that. When you're in hospital, there's a few different stages where you're tube fed. So it's forcing nutrients into your body because you're not getting any in. And you're also being monitored 24/7. So you have nurses that are watching everything you do, whether it's exercising or, you know, all that. Like it's very, very monitored. So that is a sense of recovery, even though it doesn't feel like it mentally, because eating disorders and anorexia is a mental health issue. Yeah. But the problem is when you're that unhealthy and that underweight, you're not getting nutrients into your brain, so you're not thinking clearly. Your body is literally not getting in any nutrients to really. One thing they said to me in hospital was, you can't physically get better until you're
until you're mentally.
It's the double-edged sword. It's like you can't physically get better until you're mentally better, but then it's like you mentally can't get better until you're physically better. So it's really, really hard to overcome.
And that's the thing where I feel like we've come leaps and bounds in this day and age is for me, just relating back to me, when I had a back injury, it wasn't physical. It wasn't like I was in a sling and you could see the injury. And I think potentially the same with anorexia, where it's like, as you're saying, it's so mental because it's the demon that's taking over and creating these habits and thoughts. So it's like people can't see what's going on in here, but they can see the physical appearance. So then they like eat more, train less. Like they're trying to fix you physically rather than mentally.
Yes.
So I think that's a big switch and shift that's happened now and hopefully continues on, where it comes down to the mental health first.
Absolutely.
And it's like with everything in life, you actually won't change and your mindset can't change until you kind of get to a point where you're like, oh, I need to change.
Yes.
And you've probably like went through so many different cycles of like kind of wanting to change, but like not really. Like everyone else wanted to change for you. And so you never did until you got to a point where it's like, no, I actually want to now.
Yes.
And that's where everything changes.
Absolutely. And it's like when obviously like when you're in the depths of it, like you don't want to be that miserable. You don't want to be that unhappy. You don't want to like hate your life as much as you do. But then if you actually like really, really hone in, it's like, yes, you did. You were still restricted. You were still wanting to be smaller and smaller and smaller. And you're exactly right. It's like when you, and it's not like the flick of a switch where you're like, okay, I want to be better now, because it's so much more complicated. It's like when you're depressed, you're not like, okay, I want to be happy now.
Yeah.
It's obviously so much more complicated. You're literally having to rewire your brain and the thoughts that you've fed your mind for so many years. And it's definitely a process, but it is one of those things where you kind of have to challenge. And when I was on like my true recovery journey, which, you know, it happens over a long period of time, but it was a matter of kind of almost challenging my thoughts to be like, when it would come through that I'm fat, I'd be like, well, I'm not, you know, like, no, I'm healthy. I'm strong. You know, like you have to challenge those thoughts, and it will feel like you're lying to yourself a lot at the start. But then the more you repeat those more positive affirmations to yourself, the more you kind of start to believe it, and you'll have proof in that as well. So it is 1 million, it's all mental. Yeah.
We've had a podcast episode which is like close to one of our best, and it's all about like rewiring your brain, because you would have had years on years and years of kind of like confirming that like you weren't good enough and that you were overweight, and then it's like you can't wake up and just like all of those neural pathways in your mind completely just switch. It's like you actually have to like rewire them.
Yeah, it's
and
like
that
building muscle in the gym. It's
exactly
going
what
to
it
take
is
months, if not years.
to get
Exactly.
confident. And it's like faking it till you make it start, and then eventually you're going to make it.
Yep.
So were you admitted by the doctor to the hospital?
Yep. So they wanted me in hospital for a while leading up until that point, and then they knew that they had to kind of do it in a way that was secretive. So I was at the point where I was doing like half days at school, because I couldn't do full days at school just in terms of being monitored, but they wanted me there for any type of social connection.
Yeah.
And my mum had like said, oh, I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you to an art exhibition. And she picked me up and she took me to the hospital. And we drove into the hospital. I was like, what the fuck?
This is not art exhibition.
I was like, you fucking bitch.
How did you feel in that moment?
I was bawling my eyes out, screaming. Like I was a wreck. But again, in that same, I remember, so in the hospital room, I was bawling my eyes out. But then when I got into like the actual, where like the bed, and when they started to put the tube in me, I was like crying of relief as well, because I was like so empty inside and like so
tired.
So tired.
Yeah.
Like literally like, yeah.
And it's like you're maybe not physically tired, but mentally it's nonstop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second you wake up to the second
and now
you go to
you
bed.
probably, because so obviously getting taken to the hospital without you wanting to is super hard. Was at that point laying in the hospital bed being like, okay, like let's surrender, or did it take you like a little bit to be like, this isn't what I want, for you to realize this is what I need?
There was one thing I said in hospital, and hospital's a bit of a blur. Like it went for a few months and many, many, many lows. But I remember saying in hospital, I want to be toned and I want to be healthy and I want to be fit. And it was like, instead of being like, I want to look this certain way, because at that point in time, looking fit was like having an 8-pack, being super skinny, having a thigh gap, exactly. Because it was also the Tumblr days. Like that's when, like thank God social media has evolved since then, because it was so toxic back then. But I remember saying like, I want to actually be toned, and having any type of muscle definition requires muscle, and I had none, absolutely none. I was a skeleton. So, there was like there was something else like that I had to work towards that was polar opposite of the current habits that led me to this point.
Yeah.
And having that other goal was, it was not like, yes, got out of hospital. Like I actually went downhill after hospital again before I made a comeback back up. But I think there was a point in there where I was like, I actually don't want to live like this, and this actually isn't my goal. I don't know how I got myself to this point, but this is actually not what I want out of my life.
Yeah, it's like when I went through a very dark stage, it's like you're so close. For me, I was like, I'm so close. I just want to end it. Like, I'm over it. I don't want to keep trying. But it was like something in me just knew that there was that light at the end of the tunnel of like, that just is what got me through. And there was no like pinpoint moment of other than just being like, I have to get through this tunnel because it's fine on the other end.
Yeah.
And it just is something that just like pulls you out of it.
100%. And it's like, there's always like, even like now, like when I go through hard times and stuff, there's always like a part of me that's just like, especially because I have gone through that, I'm like, I can go through absolutely anything. There is not a single thing I will not get to the other side of.
100%.
But it's like there is a little tiny part of you that knows that there is a life outside of
and
what
it's
you're
like
currently
trying to
living.
trust that over all the other thoughts of like, why is it worth it? What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I may as well just stop now. Like all those negative thoughts. And it's like that one little glimmer of hope. It's like, let's hang on to that.
Absolutely. And also it's kind of like what you're currently doing, like you're struggling so much every single day, and it's leading you like into a more miserable hole. Why don't you it's like you could struggle, you're going to struggle again, but what if it leads you to like a happier and more fulfilling life? It's like kind of like that whole choose your hard. It's like, yes, what you're doing is really hard. Like you're struggling, but like what if you could struggle just as much, but it could lead you to like such a happier destination?
Yeah.
What age do you feel like there was that turning point within you? Were you still at school?
So my school years are a blur. So I was in, I remember moving back to Tamworth in middle of year 10. And that's when I started going to the gym because Tamworth, there's not much else going on. Like,
and this was post-hospital?
Post-hospital. It was it was over a year after, a year and a half, maybe 2. But yeah, I went back to Tamworth and like pretty much all you can do there is like drink or go to the gym or do drugs. And I was like, I'm going to go to the gym.
It's like one or the other.
So I started going to the gym then and like started to do a little bit of weight training and stuff like that. But honestly, the weight training is what actually shifted everything because like I started to see a little bit of muscle definition and I was like, oh, this is, and then like obviously you can't build muscle without eating food. So then there was like the element of like making sure I was actually eating so I could see muscle and that sort of thing. And of course I still did like too much at that point, but it was a step in the right direction. It's like every little tiny step, although yes, it may not be the perfect step just yet, it's a step. And it's like, it is forward movement.
Yeah. And that just goes to show how long it does take. Like you were saying like nearly 2 years or a year out of hospital, then you started actually being like, okay, this is what I want for myself. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. And it does take time and it does take effort, but you have gotten to that point through all those hard times.
Yep.
Would you say that was the point where like that was when your mindset started to shift around food and training because you've gone from one extreme to the addiction of overtraining and undereating to now the opposite of like, okay, I need to train for muscle. I actually need to eat for muscle. Would you say that's where the shift happened?
So it was really gradual. So coming out of hospital, like a lot of things did shift. I still went for runs every day, but I was also like eating a bit of food. I did like put on a lot of weight out of hospital as well. But I was still just trying to be really, really active, I guess, to counterbalance that in a way. And then, when I moved to Tamworth, that's when I started to go to the gym. I was still doing way too much. Like I was doing more HIIT kind of workouts, but weight was in there as well. I was doing lots of sprints and stuff like that as well. But then I was really prioritizing like protein intake. So I was kind of just eating a lot more in general. What was the question again? Sorry.
Mindset shift.
Mindset shift, yes. When my mindset actually started to shift that's when I actually started reading self-development books. So I started, so that was like back in year 10, but that was literally the game changer for me. So I started reading, mindset books, which made me realize, oh, wow, my mind has actually controlled. And I just resonated with so much. It was like the thoughts you constantly repeat to yourself become your reality. And I was like, that's exactly what happened. I constantly said, like, I was too big. I need to do more. And, like, that was – and it just clicked to me that I was like, oh, I wasn't like a victim to what happened to me. I created that for myself. And then it just kind of started this evolution of me being like, oh, and then I also have control over me coming out the other side. And actually like my mind isn't this thing that I have no control over, and my thoughts aren't something I have no control over. It's actually something that I can start to rewire, like we just said, and work in my favor. So yeah, reading books was, actually just starting to learn more about my mindset was the shift I needed. And then over time, that really translated into all areas of my life, including my health and fitness.
Yeah, wow.
When you moved to Tamworth, obviously you said it was like gym and training or drugs and partying. How would you say your environment impacted you at that point of your life?
So I was like, I still like drank and stuff with my girlfriends and like went to parties. But I think the gym also really, really helped because it was like I was also having such a healthy lifestyle. I wasn't going to like throw it all in the bin for that. So I had some really good friends at the time, and like I was still really, really disciplined and really stubborn to like still make sure I went to the gym every day and stuff like that. But then I did just have like a good group of girlfriends that we could hang out together and go to parties together if we wanted. I wouldn't say like they had like a negative or necessarily a positive relationship towards it. I think it was very much so internal, all the work I did. And it wasn't really friendships at that time that I really opened up to them about heaps of stuff. But also in saying that, I had dealt with like a lot of bullying in my younger years. So like friendships were always touchy for me, and these were like genuine good friendships. So I felt really secure in that I had like actually decent friends around me.
So would you say your environment when you were younger was probably not supportive towards you, and that's almost like what kind of led you down the path of the eating disorder?
Yeah. So when I first came from Tamworth when I was younger, I was in like that was kind of like, the starting point of the big shift that I made. So very, very bad bullying when I was first there. So about year 5, 6, 7.
And that was just through school?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was heaps like, it was deep. It was not good. I was also just friends with some really awful people that made it like really bad. But it got to a point where like I needed to get out of there. And so that's when I moved to Newcastle. And my best friend at the time, who was literally my rock, like I had pretty much one solid friend, and she kind of had a shift when I moved out of kind of jealousy for me making new friends and stuff, because we were just so close and we were so young. Like we were also so young. So it's like I don't hold resentment literally to anyone, because we were so young and you are a product of your environment. So how they behaved and how they treated people was what they knew. Yeah. And that's all they knew. They do, and you're young, you're immature, and that's how
you've learned those behaviours from other people.
Exactly. Yeah. So moved to Newcastle, and I remember her calling me fat, and then that was like the kicker, because I was like, oh, this
she
girl
thinks that.
Yeah. And it was like, this was when people wrote Facebook statuses and all that. And then like heaps of people jumped on the bandwagon. And then it was like, oh, and I was in year 7. And so it really hit. And then I moved to Newcastle and I was like, I'm going to literally change my whole life. I'm not going to be fat. And I wasn't fat. I literally wasn't. Like I look back at younger Millie and I was like, you were just like a chubby little year 7er. Like it was so
also we're
normal.
going through puberty in year 7.
Yeah. And you loved Macca's, girl. Like it's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But then that's when I moved to Newcastle, and I just wanted everything to change. Like I wanted to actually have friends. I wanted to be seen in like I wanted to be pretty. I wanted to, like whatever. And then,
Yeah. That bullying is just.
Yeah. It was hectic.
I just like, that makes me so grateful for like my school, because I went to a sports school, and like it was so, I got teased for like having thunder thighs and like big legs and things like that, but equally it was like the boys that couldn't lift as much as me. So it was like, you're just jealous.
Yeah, you're jealous.
So growing up in such different environments, again, has led to such a different impact later on.
Yeah.
Would you say that a lot of this journey was, in a sense, you on your own kind of getting you through? Because as you mentioned, through school, you didn't really have that support system. Then you found those girls but didn't really open up to them. Would you say you got yourself through a lot of these times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think like it's a blessing and a curse, because like at the end of the day, the only person you're going to have for the entirety of your life is yourself. And like people will come and go, but like, if you've got yourself sort of thing. So I feel like I've had that in me which is the first time I've thought about it, because I'm like this now where I'm like, it's all right, Mill, you've got yourself, you'll get through it. But if I actually look back, I think that's actually been me my whole life.
Because almost there was a point where it's like you're your worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because as you said, you weren't a victim, you created it. But when did you feel like it shifted to like you're your own biggest supporter?
Yeah.
Would that have been through the end of high school, would you say?
Yeah. So, when I was in Tamworth, when I started reading those books, I actually only stayed there for about a year because I literally wanted to get the heck out of there again as soon as possible, because I was like, just as much as I had a positive experience the second time around, I knew it was absolutely not where I was meant to be. That was around the time I think I built a lot of self-confidence within myself. Like, I think also it was really positive to change my experience in that town, because it only had really, really negative memories, and then I turned them into pretty much only positive memories. It was almost like a tiny bit of healing inside myself. And then what was the question?
Good question. Becoming your biggest supporter.
Yeah. So, it was, I think probably then, I think I actually built a lot of confidence within myself then, and just self-assurance, and then that progressed as the years went on, as I kind of started doing things that like once upon a time never would have seemed possible. Like, I did drop out of school, and then that's when I started PT, and then that's when I like eventually opened up my own gym and stuff like that. And I think also a lot of like the noise from like my family, like when I like thinking that I was like a dropout and that I wouldn't make it.
What
and then,
year of school did you drop out?
Year 11. Yeah, year
Same.
11.
Well, I was year 10 actually. But.
Look at us go. Look at us now. Yeah, so it was even kind of like then dropping out and then being in a better financial situation than literally my whole family. And then it was like, then they started to be like, oh, wow, I'm so proud of you. And like hearing that from certain members of my family, I would have just never heard in my life. So it was like, I built confidence in being like, and I did this all on my own. Like I did all of this literally on my own. So I think it showed me what I was capable
of. It was like
of.
proof.
Exactly. Because like I overcame the eating disorder. Then I also completely changed the narrative that my family had of me, but then also the path of a lot of my family as well.
I think that's also the biggest thing going through such huge life-changing events when you're younger, is you almost think that like that's who you are for the rest of your life, because everyone almost would have seen you as like Millie, the girl who's like struggling with anorexia and in a hospital. And it's like you may have healed, and then it's like proving to others that you have as well. And not that you should prove anything to other people, but you probably go back to where you're from and where you had those really tough memories. And it's like, no, I'm actually a changed person, and that's not who I am. A big question is, what was the difference from now with your training and nutrition in comparison to what it used to be?
Oh, so different. Like, again, there is so many different levels to like the progression I've made with my health and fitness and my mindset and my relationship towards food and training and everything. Like every single year I feel like I reach a newer level. Obviously when it was super, super, super restrictive, that's like, I think we can all imagine what that looked like. And then it did kind of turn into, there was a bit of binging happening as I started to eat a bit more. But then that eventually, that was something that I did not want to do. So that was like, it was hard to overcome that, but that was something that like, it's like how we mentioned, you either want to overcome something or you don't. Yeah. I wanted to. So it was like every single time I didn't, I was like, okay, you did it. Like it was like every time you said no and you didn't give in to that craving, you are getting that little bit stronger. And then as time went on, when I started weight training, I started like eating more protein and just like eating more food. I was low carb for a really, really long time. But when I started, actually the biggest turning point for my nutrition was quite a few years ago when I started CrossFit. Because it's such a performance-based sport and I am super competitive. So I was always in there and I was always like competing against the boys, and I was also always trying to compete against myself. I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to do more of this. I wanted to be faster, whatever. And if you're not eating enough food, you're going to see the difference in your performance. So that was really good for me because I was like, okay, I have to eat carbs, before and after my training. And that's also the first time I got a coach to do my macros for me. So then I started eating all this food and looking better. And I was like, what the hell is going on?
Isn't it wild when you're taught, like my mum was the same as yours very much. And again, they did the best to what they knew for us, but it's like eat less, train more. That's how you're going to lose weight. Where it's like when you actually went through it, both of us had to eat more to look better, train less, and your body's actually going to respond really well.
Literally.
And it's like you have to fully rewire your brain because you're like, this doesn't make sense.
100%.
But my body is showing me that it's proof that it does.
Exactly. Yes. And exactly that. And it's even like now how like, you know, you're training less, I was training less, and we were getting better results. So we're like, what is going on? Why is this literally the polar opposite of everything
what we've been
ever
taught.
learned?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually the first time I started to be like, oh, okay, wow, I actually need to eat more. And then I was just surrounded by, that's also when I really started to take good notice of who I was following on social media. So really reducing anyone that made me feel negative about myself, I just culled all of that. And I really started to like watch YouTube videos of like actual professionals in the field that, you know, like back then it was like BioLane and stuff where they were just like no BS and they just like said it exactly how it was. So I started to really educate myself and really look up to people who were qualified to give advice. And that really, really helped me to stop demonizing food in a certain way and look at it for the facts and not the feelings, and then really start to shift. But again, it was very gradual. Like it was not like I went from here to like here and it was all perfect and I didn't think about food or calories or anything like that ever again. It was like very small increments. And yes, it may not have been perfect at the time, but it was still a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And that's such a good point for everyone to listen as well. And as a coach myself, the biggest conversation I have with people, it's like, focus on how you feel, and then I promise the looks will come on later.
Yeah.
Or even if the looks don't, you're just going to be more confident within yourself
Yeah.
because you're focusing on that like internal. But feeling is literally like everything.
And I think this also really, really helps me now is like you could look the best you've ever looked on the outside, and if you don't feel good on the inside,
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. And like that's happened to me at so many different stages where other people being like, oh my God, you look amazing. And I'm like, I've never been more depressed in my life.
Yeah.
Like I feel awful. Yeah. And it's like also how you can look at the supermodels who you're like, oh my God, they look phenomenal. And then you hear how much they hate themselves and how much they pick themselves apart. Yeah. And you're like, true happiness and true confidence and true self-worth literally only comes from the inside. It's nothing to do with the outside.
It's so big in the bodybuilding world as well because that's where I see it like so often is when people get stage lean and they think that's when their confidence is going to come out, and it's like
the worst part of it.
Yes.
They are the least happy they've ever been in their life, and they think when they get lean all of their problems are going to be fixed. All of your problems actually come to the surface is what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's crazy
Even
to see.
Steph Claire Smith said it on a podcast, or when I think maybe on ours or when I was speaking to her, but she used to idolize Victoria's Secret models and just absolutely adore them until she got into a room with them, and all she heard them talking about was they're fat this, they're picking apart their legs there, and she's like, you're at the top and you're miserable. And that was like her turning point, which was, and again, like you don't see that side because not often many people share it. Reflecting on your journey, how do you feel about your past version of yourself versus now?
Past version, which version?
There are so many.
I've had 100.
I guess little Millie pre-hospital, feeling that like helpless, lost, kind of going through that journey to like where you are now in the solid Millie that you are.
I feel sorry for her in the sense that she doesn't know actually how strong she is because like everything that she has overcome now and everything she's achieved and everything that she's done is just like you back then were so close to not being here either from how unwell you were or because you know, did not want to be here anymore. And just like, sad for her, but also so proud of her for pushing through and for never giving up.
Don't you wish you could just go back and like hug your
Oh my
younger self
God.
like all the time?
No, that trend
feel
that
like-
just went, that trend where it was
the
like,
met myself
oh my
with
God,
Mandy.
I didn't understand it when I first saw it.
Same. I was like, what's going
I
on?
saw one and I was like, I like did mine and I was like, oh God, like I needed
I
that.
feel like that's what, like if we all have a daughter, like we would just like hug them as if it's like our younger
that
self.
literally just
Like,
gave me full on goosebumps.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
like I just, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys know how busy Tori and I have been lately, and Papa Macros have been a time saver. They are a meal prep company that delivers ready-to-go meals straight to your door.
One thing that we love most is their clean ingredients, not using any seed oils or preservatives, which can be common amongst ready-to-go meals. The macros are incredible and they have over 70 meals on the menu with different categories to fit your current goals.
Lucky for you, we have partnered with Papa Macros, so if you're struggling with meal prep, poor on time, or just wanting to switch it up, they are the perfect addition to your weekly plan. Just use code RAWREALITY for a discount on your next order. And you'll never get tired of eating the same meals as they update the menu every month, so the variety is never ending. We hope you enjoy.
What role did like self-acceptance play in your journey as well as like self-love?
I think it was like
Yeah,
that was.
that was the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Discovering that.
Absolutely, because I think getting yourself to that low point comes from just a world of self-hate. Like you hate yourself, you hate everything about yourself, you question everything you do, your mind is literally your biggest enemy. And when you can start to shift that, and again, very slowly, but when you start to shift that to actually be your own biggest supporter and also back yourself and like know who you are and just constantly work on yourself as well. If there's ugly parts of you, work on that. And I've always tried to do that. And I would say, yeah, that's been the entire journey. It's been like yes, people are going to look at my physical transformation and be like, wow, like she's put in so much work. Like, yes, I have, but 95%
that's
of
the
that has been my
that people can see. They can't see the transformation up here.
Exactly.
You said that reading self-development books was like such a pivotal point in your healing journey. What are other habits that you implemented to help you with that?
Journaling. Journaling was I think that's been the most solid thing throughout all of this. And I think that's been like one of the biggest things when it comes to my mindset. I think also going back to the fact that I've always had myself, journaling has been where no matter what I'm going through, it's like I can bring calm to the chaos and like recenter myself and just like make sense of anything I'm going through, make sense of my thoughts. But also I find in journaling, I'm always like it's like you're talking to your best friend and you're trying to give them advice. Like I'm giving myself the advice that I need to hear. It's like it's actually coming from inside of me. Like I have all the answers inside. It's like you just need to trust yourself and like work through it.
Well, it feels so overwhelming when you just like constantly thinking your mind's racing. The second you get it out, it's like you have to like, you want to get so much out, but you have to write slowly. Like you can't get everything out all at once. So it makes you process through the thoughts and then almost realize, oh, I actually like, I do have the answer. I know why I'm feeling that way or I know why I'm triggered. And then you can overcome that.
Yeah, because if you just sit and dwell in your head, your mind will go forever. Like you will make the worst out of every single situation. You'll think of 1,000 ways of how this situation is 100 times worse than what it actually is. But when you're putting it on paper and it's out in front of you, you're like, oh, like, again, it's just like the facts. You're like, you can feel however you want to feel, but then also when it's put out in front of you, you're like, okay, it's actually quite simple to work through this, whether it, whatever it may be. But yeah, journaling has been this most solid part of my journey. And I even found journals about a year ago, found the journals of when I was going through my ED and it was like just so crazy, like to see.
Like polarizing.
Oh my goodness. Like I often like sometimes like it's like it feels like another world that it was so long ago, but it does genuinely like I feel so far removed from that now. Like I still get really emotional thinking about it because I just feel like those feelings sometimes come back and I'm like, oh wow, I was like.
Do you ever like read it and go like, how did I do that? Like,
I think I'm such a stubborn person. Like,
you're like, well, of course I did.
Yeah, I'm literally like, of course you did. Like,
Yeah.
you are so stubborn. Like, yes, you would have just, when people were trying to make you put on weight, you would have just literally out of stubbornness be like, no, I'm going to lose it this week. Like that was like my personality back then. But it is so polarizing, like you said, because you just how powerful your mind is. That's the most incredible thing I think I've learnt in my entire life is how powerful your mind is, like far beyond what we can even fathom. Yeah.
I imagine with your platform now and sharing your journey that you would just get inundated with DMs of, you know, probably a lot of young girls and women going through the same thing. And I think a lot of the time with my journey or my skin journey, I just wish that there's like a rule book I could just give out and be like, don't do this, don't do that. But obviously it's so individualized for everyone. But in terms of like giving advice to, you know, people going through any similar journey, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone trying to rebuild their life when they feel like they're stuck or they can't go on?
I think there's like a few different kind of like avenues I guess I could go down, and everyone is so different and everyone's experience I feel like is so different because it's probably coming from a different place. However, I feel like I often think of how stubborn and how disciplined you are to get yourself to that place. And and it's kind of the thing that got me through is like use that same discipline and that same stubbornness to get out. And yes, it's not easy, but what you're going through right now is not easy. And you have to imagine a life outside of your ED in the sense that you actually don't need to have these thoughts for the rest of your life. Like you do not need to suffer as much as you are and hate yourself as much as you do for the rest of your life. And there is such a big, beautiful, amazing, fulfilling, happy life out there that it is yours, but you do have to go through the hard work of fighting back your thoughts and fighting back your impulses to do the things that you know are steering you in the worst direction to try and get yourself out. And it's so hard. And I'm like, I think sometimes I probably make it sound easier than it is, that like you just need to switch your mind. I know it's far beyond that, but you can actually do it. Like you genuinely can do it. And I remember someone telling me when I was in hospital that I would struggle with these thoughts for the rest of my life. And genuinely, you don't have to. Like you can truly turn your entire life around and not go through the same mental battle you're going through every single day or even remotely close to it in any realm if you really, really put in the work to work on your mindset.
How would you say a loved one could support someone through a similar journey?
I get asked this a lot and it's so hard because I really feel like it's up to the individual.
Yeah.
Because I had people around me that wanted me to be better, but until I actually made the decision to start taking those steps, they couldn't do a single thing. So I guess it is just a matter of being there. Do not I was in hospital with a girl and her family kind of like just like left her because she wasn't getting better. And like they need you, they really need you, because as much as they may not be saying it, they are struggling and they don't want to be living like that. They do not want to be suffering, but they don't know a way out. So I think it could be, you know, being there and being a sounding board for them to talk to
when they're ready.
Exactly, whenever they're ready, keeping it open, not having judgment, but also maybe not vocalizing it to them that you're going to get them help, but you getting them that help behind the scenes, whether that is a psychiatrist or taking them to hospital or whatever it needs to be. They definitely need that professional help as well. But honestly, I think another really, really impactful thing I think I wish I had back then was I didn't have anyone I could look up to that was recovered. So for me, the idea of recovery being possible didn't seem possible because there was no proof to me. Back in those social media days, I feel like people weren't as open as they are now, or, you know, other, you know, bodies were much more idolized than the bodies that are idolized now. Having people that they could look up to that have recovered and saying like, this is possible for you, I think could be really helpful. But at the end of the day, it really is going to come down to the individual putting in the work to get better. Because like we said at the very beginning, it's like you're not physically going to get better until you're mentally better and vice versa. So it's an upward battle, but it's the most rewarding one that you'll ever do.
If you could change how young people are introduced to health and fitness, what would that look like?
Weight training. Yeah. Honestly, like I think we are absolutely, yes, there's like a lot of room for improvement in the health and fitness industry, but I really think we've taken leaps and bounds in such a positive direction. Like the way that people talk about you need to eat enough food now, and the way that strength is actually something that people look up to, and strong bodies, and there are just so many really positive people in this space that deserve their platforms now. I think back then probably people did not, I don't want to say deserve their platforms because it was the day and age we were in, but shouldn't have had the platforms that they had with the information they were providing. I think we're in a really good space now, and I think weight training was, in my personal journey, the pivotal point.
It's like almost weight training was for men and like muscles were for men, where it's completely transformed, and it's like women are like now wanting to be strong and have strong bodies and have big muscles and like lift heavy and like it's empowering and it's amazing, and it's in turn of that it's like transformed people's bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And transform their minds as well, because that was the biggest thing I learned when I started weight training was it was like you mentioned, the feeling, like stop focusing on the way you look and start focusing on the way you feel. Like when you lift a weight that once upon a time you never thought you could lift, you're like, oh, wow, I did that. Like I did that. And like then you want to try and improve from that the following week. And then you have that goal to progress in the gym. And then you start to see a bit of muscle definition. You're like, oh, wow, I'm actually making improvement. And it's improvement in a much more positive direction than getting smaller and getting smaller and getting smaller.
It's the most rewarding thing because no one can take away that hard work.
Absolutely.
Like majority, like in not a morbid way, but like anything can be taken away from you at any point in your life. But that is one thing that you can't cheat the system. You can't just wake up and have that. Like you have to work for it. And I think that's why it is the most rewarding thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Are there any on the top of your mind like fitness myths you wish people knew earlier, or just she's like brain is ticking?
Honestly, I can't even pick one now because I've got so many. Fitness myths. Okay. The whole thing of it's hard because I feel like now my social media algorithm, I'm like, everyone knows like the truth now. But then you see little things, you're like, oh, wow, people still think that. So I guess fasted cardio, HIIT workouts, something you and I relate to in this has been like my last year's journey was the fact of doing less is actually much more. Yeah. Because of all my gut health stuff. So that was another thing that I did so much damage to my gut health and my hormones and everything whilst I was going through all this restricting and calorie counting and, you know, being, even when I was in a much healthier place, but really relying on macros and being super restrictive of things like fats and stuff, that's done a lot of damage to my gut health. And my last year has looked a lot like doing low impact in the sense that not doing absolutely any high impact training of any realm, even though I really do enjoy high impact training. I love it. Yeah. But my body does not. And it's like sometimes the healthiest, every single body is so different, and what works for one person is not going to work for the next. And I think that's something that's really frustrating to see in the fitness industry is something might work for someone. Going low carb might work for someone because they might have something else going on in their gut. But that for the next person is not a blanket statement that that's what works for everyone, because that could actually be one of the worst things someone could do for their gut health and their health in general. So there is absolutely no one size fits all. Actually, one thing, cortisol, that pisses me off. Yeah. Pisses me off. Yeah. I think a lot of things like and even bloating and things like that, it feels frustrating when it's like picking on people's insecurities and like kind of profiting off that because that's what's going to get the clicks, that's what's going to get the money, whatever. And people are still looking for things that are going to cure, like a magic pill. Yep. Exactly. When it really is just personal to you and figuring out if you're experiencing bloating, what's actually going on the inside.
You can do a million things to try and reduce your bloating. It's literally probably just your gut. Simple as one girl, like one of my clients, have been struggling with bloating for so long. We're like pinpointing everything. This week we found out it was cabbage. She's taken that out, fine. Like it can be such a simple fix, right? Like, and people overcomplicate it. They're like, you have to take this powder or this supplement.
There's all the supplements and there's these brands and it's like.
It's not going to help. Like, let's see what's affecting you. I can eat cabbage and be fine. Yep. You can't. And that is okay. Exactly. Like, it's just finding out what's working.
I feel like we need a part 2 in terms of like gut health and hormones because I actually would love to hear about that side of it as well.
And honestly, it has been so interesting learning about that. Like, it's, I would love to because also I want to hear more from you as well.
I'll sit back and listen.
You sit in the corner.
You're like, oh, okay.
I'm like,
you're over here eating your cabbage and then we're like, and my bloat was fucked.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like what works for something works for like not someone else, Tori and I like live the same lives and have totally different training schedules and
100%.
diets.
Like it's like you could literally have two people, same weight, same height, everything.
We are like the same weight and same height.
Exactly.
And we're so different.
Yeah.
So
And then you
different.
do, and you'll have completely different responses. Yeah.
It's crazy.
What would you say living a truly healthy life means to you?
Balance. I think now actually having like, it sounds cliche, but the whole like body, mind, spirit sort of thing, like actually having a balance between like your mental health is equally, if not absolutely more important than your, you know, your physical health, in the sense that there are so many different elements to health that get overlooked when you're on a fitness journey. You kind of literally get rid of all the other, you know, the categories of health, like your, you know, your connection and all that sort of stuff to achieve a fitness result. You stop socializing with people, you stop, you know, so many different things, but having that balance between like actually prioritizing, like knowing when to go fast and when to go slow, and really being able to kind of recenter yourself and listen to your body and what it needs, whether that is, I want to go out and I want to eat a burger tonight, or whether that is actually, no, I really need a nutritious meal, or I'm going to go to the gym today, I'm going to push really hard, or no, I'm going to have a rest day and I'm just going to watch TV and I'm going to do nothing. Like actually being in tune with your body, and not in a state of like allowing yourself to be lazy and letting the kind of, you know, the excuses come through. But I think when you get to a place of truly
Knowing your body.
yes, knowing your body, you'll know, like, it's such a sign of like self-respect to be able to kind of tell you, like, be kind to yourself in whatever you feel like you need for that day, and not put pressure on yourself. Like if you've got your period or something and you're like going, like, I look back at how stubborn I was through, no matter what I was going through, I could have had the worst day in history and then I'd still push myself equally as hard as if I was in my best form. And it's just not, like, it's not healthy
not
for your body.
beneficial.
Exactly. Yeah.
The last topic I want to touch on is social media. And did you always have the intention of like sharing your journey, or did that just like come more naturally?
I think it actually really came naturally. Like, I am an oversharer.
Me too, sister.
But I don't know. It's so it's actually crazy. And I don't often think about like where my social media is now, because it was genuinely never intentional. Like, I started sharing about my journey probably 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just in like little kind of glimpses, because when I, like, all my followers, it's like they all knew, like they were all knew what I went through. So it was like kind of just sharing a little bit of like, you know, a bit more in depth as to what I was actually going through at that time, and kind of that's when it started. And then over time it did grow, and it just really, because I'm so passionate about mental health and mindset and stuff, I found like when I did question boxes and stuff, it kind of more started on my stories where I would really start to dive deeper into that. And I found a really positive response from people hearing more about that side of things. And it kind of just progressed. I feel really like, it feels really good to be open about this stuff. I don't feel like any type of blockage to talk about things. Like
It's almost like you, and I feel the same way, I'd be doing a disservice by not
Yes.
sharing it, because there's so many people going through the same thing.
Absolutely.
And I just
And
love
I
being an
also like
oversharer.
really see my life as like, I've been through a lot, but I'm so grateful for every single part of it, because the lessons it's taught me, I'm like, I don't want to keep that in a vault inside me. I want to be able to share that and help other people through that, because I truly believe that's why I've gone through everything I have, because it's making me stronger and it's teaching me all these lessons that some people will go their entire life up until 90 years old and not learn everything that I've learned at 25 years old, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel really grateful in that sense that, you know,
Yeah.
it's been put in my hands, and I want to be able to share that with people.
And it's even sharing the moments when you don't have the answer, because it's like if we were to wait till we have the answers, we'd be waiting our entire life.
Yep.
But when we're sharing the journey without the answers, it's like if I'm going through, when I was going through my skin journey and I was like, I thought I nailed it, and then I break out again and I'm just like, I don't know why. Someone else will, or someone else will feel the exact same way. And it's like peace of mind knowing, firstly, I'm not alone, which is, I think, a massive thing. but also someone else out there will have an answer or have some sort of advice to help me through the next step, and I don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. And I think as well, a lot of people want to feel validated in what they're going through.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're struggling with someone else is struggling as well. It's like with all of our gut health stuff, for example, that was one of the things where I just had such an influx of messages from so much of my audience, and I felt so embarrassed about all my gut health stuff because I felt so out of my body and I felt like I was so out of control with everything. But how many other people were experiencing that, and how it actually made me feel better as well that I wasn't alone in that. And it's the exact same thing for them as well. So it's like whatever you're going through, whether it is mental health struggles, whether it is, skin issues, whether it is gut issues, whatever it is, someone else is going through that as well, and they feel alone in that, just like you do.
I remember what I was going to say before when you were talking about mental health being the most important thing. The way that I look at it is like mental health being number one, because without a beautifully functioned mind, everything else won't be able to flow. And then as they say, like the gut is the second brain.
Yep.
So I'm like, you focus on your mental health, you focus on your gut, which is going to benefit each other. Then you focus on your physical health.
Yep.
Putting those three together.
God,
Exactly.
you are good to
You're
go.
unstoppable, really.
Yeah, you are. Hello. Because
Yeah.
also it's like when you're looking after your mental health, some physical aspects will come into play there. Like
100%.
that will be things like getting out of nature, going for a walk, getting in movement. So
Getting
it's like
out of
they
bed,
kind of,
just-
if you
yeah.
actually think about real health, all of them collide together, like true health. But it's when one is far overpowered than the other, that's when you're going to have those imbalances and it's going to show. So yeah.
When did you notice you started to grow significantly on socials?
It's so strange because socials have evolved so much. We're like, say like 5 years ago, if you had 10K followers, you're
Yeah.
like, wow. Whereas like now it's like if
If you don't have a million,
exactly,
well,
yeah, exactly. So now I'm like, I don't even think I'm big. But yeah, I think like, say like, 5 years ago, maybe I had 10K or something. So like I had like enough to be like, oh, there's quite a few, like there's people here that I actually have the potential to impact. And I always took my social media presence with like, not lightly in the sense that I've always been very careful about what I share on there in the sense of like information.
Yeah.
Because I was so susceptible to misinformation when I was younger, and that's what led me down my deep dark spiral. So I was always quite careful with like making sure I don't say the wrong thing and really trying to bridge the gap with my personal audience of what I had learnt over my years. But when it started to grow, I don't know, because it's kind of evolved. So like back then, I guess that was like a decent amount for back then. But when it really kind of took off, I would actually probably say maybe only like the last year, 1 to 2 years. When I moved up here, I have had a lot of growth on my socials. But then probably the year before that was when I was like, last year was the year I started treating it like a bit of a job.
Yeah,
where
okay.
it was more like, oh, okay, the opportunities that come out of this are literally beyond my wildest dreams. And then I started to kind of like be followed by people that like I had always looked up to my entire
Yeah.
I feel
life.
like that's the
That's the
craziest part about socials.
That is the part that I was like, oh, what the hell is going on?
That kind of happened to me this week going on the cruise, because I'm like, I followed you for like 7 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, just like with you.
On a
Like,
holiday with
what the
you.
heck?
100%.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy how like when you start to get this following, it's like when you're younger and you look at the people with this huge following and you're like, oh my God, like they're just like, they're everything. And then you start to get a following, you're like, oh, we're literally just
Literally,
people.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
are literally just
And you
human
live
beings.
just such a normal life and just edit a little bit more and post that. Like,
Exactly.
it's literally it.
exactly. And then you
Yeah.
just have like literally eyeballs all over, and it's incredible, but it's, yeah, you just feel so normal as well. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
the same as you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I am obsessed with you, and I'm just so inspired by your story. I think like your determination and dedication from the beginning, and kind of you can see that you had that grit from you from the start, but then to get through what you have and be where you are and now share your story, I think is so empowering. And we will be back for a round 2 because I want to talk gut issues and skin and hormones and all the things. But to flip it a little bit lightly, we've got some fun quick fire questions for you that we do with all our guests.
Yeah.
We have your star sign.
Virgo. Can you tell?
I
Do you guys
don't
know the
I
qualities
only
of
know
Virgo?
like mine and my closest friends, but no one's a Virgo.
Yeah.
Besides, Izzy. We had this conversation the other night.
yes.
Okay. I'm
Which
like a
makes
true
sense.
blue Virgo.
I kind of see similarities.
I see
with her.
similarities.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
successful because they're so stubborn.
Yeah, just
stubborn
determined.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are the other signs of it?
Loyal. Like I feel like if like the people that are in my life, like I'll die for you. I'm so loyal. It's more the two main qualities are like stubbornness and loyalty. They're like the two. Yeah.
And you're like, I tick them.
And I'm like, yes. That's my entire personality.
What are 3 words to describe yourself?
Ooh.
Stubborn and loyal.
Stubborn, loyal. I would say I'm kind. Like I really,
Yeah.
really, really care. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Your hall pass?
Oh my God. Guys, I don't know. See, okay, my problem is I could be super attracted to someone and if they have a crappy personality,
See you later.
I'm
Yeah.
so unattracted. So it's like
Yeah.
I could look at someone who's like so sexy and then they talk and I'm like, oh, you should have kept your mouth shut. But there's one person that comes to my mind who is that guy that's in Fast and the Furious, but he's dead.
Walker. The brother.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I actually think is that I didn't know
love
he was dead.
I love the other brother.
The one that ended up playing him at the end.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, wait,
No, can
I'm
I say
confusing
something?
myself.
I watched Fast and Furious the first time ever last night, and that's the only reason why I know that name.
Oh my goodness.
That is
okay.
really weird.
That
That
was
is
me
weird.
last year though, and I watched all 5 in like the span of a weekend. And do you know how long those movies go for?
Yeah, well, I watched half of the second one last night. I had to go to bed. Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, but Paul Walker, I don't know,
Yeah.
there's something about him. I got stuck on his TikTok like things, like where people make and I was like,
Compilations.
oh,
Wow.
heart palpitations.
Yeah, okay.
Your favorite food?
Okay, so I love Mexican food, but if there was a food, I genuinely, like if I had to only have one meal for the rest of my life, I think it would be pizza because you can make so many different variations of it. You can make
Yeah,
like
fair.
healthy versions, you can make unhealthy versions, you know what I mean? You can get salady ones, protein ones. So
I think I've said this before, but with potatoes, because you can have like chips or you can have mashed potato, boiled potato,
Yeah.
fried potato.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. And our final question, what did you want to be growing up?
Nothing actually. No, I wanted to be nothing.
I wanted to be no one.
Invisible. No, nothing really comes to mind. I think I was like the standard, like, I want to be a police officer, like every single child does at some point.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that I was like, oh my God, that's my dream. Like, never.
You were
Yeah.
just getting through life at that point.
I was literally just surviving
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
my
truly.
entire younger years.
Yeah, I don't care what I
was
come.
like,
I just
honestly,
got to
if
make it
I
out.
make it this out alive, I'll be happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
gosh.
just finishing this episode, we always ask everyone what their favorite quote is.
Ooh, I love quotes. I love your quotes. Every time you post them, I'm like, screenshot.
Yeah.
I love my quotes.
Okay. One that has always stuck to me that I kind of always even with social media, I kind of repeat to myself is those that matter don't mind and those that mind don't matter, because it's so true. It's like the people that really matter in your life will cheer for you and they'll be there for you. And then those that don't, like, that's fine. They're not supposed to be in your life anyways, because you're not going to be for everyone, but the people that you are for, they're going to be like, they're your people sort of thing.
Wow.
I love
That's a
that
really
quote.
good one, yeah.
Yeah. Incredible.
Well, that pretty much wraps up this episode, which is actually wild. Like, I am so happy with this.
I was just like dialed into
I know,
everything you were saying.
I was like not looking at the time and I was like, it's been an hour. Like, we've been talking for an hour. I think everything you had to say was so valuable for everyone, not only if they haven't been through a journey like that, it just for myself, like there was so many pieces in there that I was like, yep, I love that. I'm going to implement that. Well, watch me go buy 3 self-development books after this.
I think the biggest takeaway regarding eating disorder or not is mindset.
Yeah.
Like how powerful your mind can be. And I think, you know, I try my best to portray that and show that. But until you go through it yourself and you see the transformation, no matter what you're going through, it could be a breakup, it could be literally anything, your mind is where it starts and where it ends.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, where can people find you on socials?
You can find me on Instagram at Millie_Marshall, and same thing with TikTok. And I also have YouTube, actually.
You are like smashing the YouTube.
Honestly, I think YouTube is my favorite platform because I feel like I can genuinely just like chat like I would to my friends, and it actually has been so fulfilling for
And
me.
like therapeutic, I find.
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
also like long form content. People just get to know you so much more. That's why I love the
Absolutely.
podcast, because I'm like, you can see a workout, but you don't know my personality. You don't know who I am. And I think a podcast or long form, like it just
YouTube,
helps
yeah.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I messaged you this the other day when I reflected back your Instagram, but I was like, honestly, the last, I can't remember what I said. I would say like 3-4 months, your shift in your socials, I'm obsessed.
Thank
I
you.
feel like I've seen you come out.
Thank
and like
you.
I haven't even known you that
Yeah,
long,
exactly.
but
The day I met
I just saw the shift and I was like, I'm obsessed. Like just vibrant. Like I would look at your stories and I just feel happy.
Yeah,
And
that
like,
makes
that's
me
just, like,
so
come out.
happy.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's I feel like last year I struggled a lot and like I really lost myself last year, and it's been like the last few weeks, like I said to you, I'm actually starting to feel like actually Millie come back through again, which has been such like, it's like throughout all my like mental health struggles throughout my entire life, because it is something I still struggle with to this day. You have highs and lows and good months, bad months, but it's so nice to feel like I'm actually coming back again. So it was so nice to like have other people recognize that, because it also like, it's nice also to have people kind of see you, if that makes sense. And like they kind of almost see when you're struggling, but then they see when you're like doing really well as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Hope you guys absolutely loved this episode. As always, share it with a friend, tag us, tag Millie. We'd love to hear your thoughts and just see you guys listening. But we love you so much and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.